All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. We got a lot to go through today. We had two historic days in a row. One of the worst days in the history of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, followed by, in some ways, one of the best days in the history. So I think everybody's very confused right now. I don't think people know what's going on. So we are going to talk all about that today. There's a lot of news that happened. A lot of the Bitcoin miners / data center companies put out their quarterly reports, so we're going to go through that. We've got a long list. It should be an exciting show. So do us a favor, smash the like button, sit back, relax, and we're going to talk about what's going on. What are you thinking, George? All right, it's on. Well, if you look at the Bitcoin, if you look at cryptocurrency today, you know, if you have blinders, if the only day you lived was yesterday, the sky was falling. If that was for a fact your best intro ever. I don't understand. Let me get tech support. Let me get Rev it back up, George, because George just hit a grand slam home run with that intro. I'll be back in 10 seconds. Hold on. Maybe I can fix it, but I doubt it. I'll be right back. Tech support. All right, let's try this one more time. My apologies, George. I'm going to cue it up. On to George. Go.
So what I said was, listen, don't believe the hype. It's not over with. We got a lot of altcoins we need to talk about. We got XRP, HBAR, Link, Solana, Ethereum. Is it dead or isn't it? I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. This is not financial advice. This is life advice.
Well, you just hit it on the head. There is so much going on right now. And I can tell you, I hope everybody's feeling a little better today. I hope everybody didn't panic sell yesterday. I can tell you, I talked to more than one person that we had to talk it out because they wanted to sell everything and be done. So that's the kind of day it was yesterday. I know there's a lot of people that did do that. I doubt you guys here on this stream did it, but yesterday was as brutal a day as there has been in the history of Bitcoin, and by many measures, it was the worst day in the history of Bitcoin. So,
what was the percentage down, Tom?
It was down, right. And by a percentage, it was not the worst day in history, but it was down over $10,000 in one day yesterday, which is the single biggest drawback in the history of Bitcoin. And it was down, I don't know. Let's go to the 1 day. Let's go to the 1 day and measure yesterday's candle. I mean, that's Bitcoin was down 14% yesterday. After a run down, you know, we've been talking every stream we talk about is the bottom end, is the bottom end, is the bottom end, is the bottom end, and then only for it to go lower and lower and lower. We are on a tear to the downside. We're going to talk about where it's gone from its peak, and most importantly, what I think George's coming next. George can talk about what he thinks, and then we're going to see what you guys think. But that's a 14% drawdown. It was a $10,500 drawdown in one day. That's catastrophic. If you would have gone into the day saying that was going to happen, obviously you'd sell everything. It would be a nightmare. By the end of the day, all I heard last night, and I saved a couple of the articles. All I heard last night, and I stayed up late listening and watching and taking notes and getting ready for today's stream. All I heard last night was Bitcoin 38,000 or the big argument was, is it going down to 38 or 30? Those are the two big arguments out there. And so I'm going to give you my personal opinion. It's not going down to 38 and it's not going down to 30. So again, I don't know the future, but I will be trading as if yesterday was the bottom.
Tom, I do know the future, and I will tell you that once we get a freaking Congress can pull their head out of their ass and get some clarity, get this clarity bill passed.
It's not funny you should say clarity. The Clarity Act itself, exactly.
Yeah. I think that right after that day, whenever that happens, I think you'll see a major inflow into everything, not just Bitcoin, but everything altogether, altcoins, because I think they then can believe that this is for real. Right now, it's still, jibber jabber.
Well, and you bring up a good point. The Clarity Act, we were hoping it was going to be passed last year. Then everybody was hoping it was going to be passed in January. Right. Let me just get to a couple of super chats real quick, and then I'll get back to what I was saying. Dan said, thanks for the super chat. Can Mara get back to $20? LOL. My answer is yes. So short answer, in my opinion, yes. Sour Melon Gaming, thank you for the super chat and for being a long-time multiple year member. In 4 years, yesterday was the first time I got angry. And I don't blame you. And I talked to some people that were angry, depressed. This is brutal stuff. You don't come across this stuff. But if you could take a deep breath, I will tell everybody, I'm going to go through later. I bought a lot yesterday, and I haven't bought, for those who have been watching, I've been saying, I haven't bought the dip. I haven't bought the dip. I haven't bought the dip. I don't think we're there yet. Well, I don't like to call bottoms. I've only ever called a bottom one time, and it was last April, and that fortunately did turn out to be the exact day that was the exact bottom. Now, we'll see. You guys know anything can happen, but I will be trading as if yesterday was the bottom until I'm proved wrong, if that happens.
Well, but according to the 4-year cycle, Tom, you're wrong, just according
to the 4-year cycle, which we're going to talk about. So let's do a quick poll. If you guys could smash the like button, it really does make a monumental difference for the stream in real time. We spent a massive amount of time prepping for today's stream, and obviously, these were the two craziest days in years. So let's get people over here. Get them. Hit that. All right, now. So where were we?
4-year cycle. I think you're getting ready to do a poll for some reason.
You are correct, sir.
I think you're getting ready to say, do you believe the 4-year cycle is over? Or did we follow it in what was it? October 6th was 1,064 days. And that was the high of last year, October 5th, I think, or 6th, something like that. And now the 4-year cycle says we'll get another little bump, and then March and April we're hit new lows.
Right. So I asked it this way, and that basically describes the 4 years. The 4-year cycle, the best 4-year cycle we ever had was a 75% pullback. In some ways, and that was the last 4-year cycle, and in some ways that was the worst 4-year cycle we've ever had, because not only did we have that pullback, but it lasted a lot longer, and we were having events. The FTX culminating in the FTX collapse. The amount of FUD last time around was unprecedented. But yes, so is the 4-year cycle still intact and crypto winter is ahead? So most people are out there right now saying, see, I told you, I've been telling you for months, that was the top. It's over and we're going into a crypto winter. And if you look at the chart, you can look at it and go, you know what? I see some similarities. I can draw some parallels, but I'm going to show you some stuff that's not similar. And I'm going to show you where I think that cycle is gone, not just for now, but forever. A part of that cycle was self-fulfilling because remember, prior to this time around, most of the trading in cryptocurrency was by crypto people. This time around, we have ETFs, we have institutions, we have retirement funds, this is a different game we're playing now. The amount of money in this game has multiplied by magnitudes. So there's different forces at work. In addition to that, there was some coincidental economic things going on from a timing standpoint in previous cycles that did not line up in this cycle that are about to line up. So I do not believe the 4-year cycle exists. I do not believe we're going to a crypto winter, which would be, all the predictions of 30,000 and 38,000 are basically, that's your 75% pullback. That's a crypto winter. So a lot of people are calling for that. Now, that was last night. So I got a bunch of articles from last night. I got a bunch from today because now, all of a sudden today, is the bottom in?
So, Tom, besides Bitcoin, everything else is down almost 90%. As yesterday it was.
Yeah, you're right.
Everything. I mean, we were looking at a whole bunch of different coins. They were down 85%. Then yesterday happened, and they all hit 90% across the board.
So let's go to your point, George. I'm going to go to this chart right here.
Of a crypto winner, that's a crypto winner.
So Bitcoin.
All right, welcome to Talkin Investing.
All right, so let me show you a number first to put things in perspective. So Bitcoin was down 14% yesterday. Well, it was up 11.5% today. So it did not get back to where it was yesterday, but this is one of the largest green candles in the history of Bitcoin. It might be the largest green candle in the history of Bitcoin. I have to double check that. But even with that, if you go look, so up 11.5% today, Bitcoin's down 16% this week. Ethereum's down 23% this week. BNB, 23%. XRP, which rallied. XRP is one of the big, it was a big loser, but it was one of the big rally winners. It went, this is at $1.45. It was at like $1.12. So it's down 16%. Solana's down 25%. And to George's point on the members only stream, we went through and looked at all these. They were all already down 70, 75, 80, or 85%. Every single one of them before any of this happened. Whatever this is up. I don't know. You guys might know. Cardano's down 15%. Bitcoin Cash, 9%. So there's a few green things as you go further down the list, but basically 17%, 30%, 15%. Chainlink's one we've been talking about on the channel a while. That was a big pullback because it's up 11% today, leaving it down 17% for the week, right? So there was a big buying opportunity there. Zcash down 30%. So yes, I'm gonna pick. Let's do the same game. Pick a number from 1 to 30.
27.
27. H bar.
Oh, that's great.
I think this actually is one you're in, isn't it?
Oh, big time. Yeah, I love H bar.
So we're not going back here. This was the previous cycle. So this cycle so far has not reached the previous cycle. So this went from 29 cents to 9 cents. Right? So if we go, we're not going to go there. We're going to go here. This was the peak, it looks like. January, and you can see this ran up like wild. However, it's down 75% after a rally today.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought it was down 90 yesterday.
It was down. Well, let's go back and see. It's up 18% today, and it's still down 75%. So, yeah, it was wrecked. But that's all of them, right? I'm going to look at SUI. This is a super popular, right? There's 5 or 6 that are just more popular for whatever reason. This is one of the big ones. So if you go, we're going to go from the high to the low, yesterday's low, right? Instead of to today, because that's really that's the low, 85%. So what I've been trying to argue on this channel for many, many months now is this is the crypto winter. Everybody's waiting and they think the 4-year cycle's happening and the next year and a half is going to be the tough part and we're heading into a crypto winter. There's 2 things that are fundamentally different. Number one, this is the crypto winter. If every altcoin is down between 75 and 90%, that's a crypto winter by definition. So we are in crypto winter for the altcoins, which is every single coin. Technically, that is every single coin in existence other than Bitcoin. I have been saying for a couple of years, Bitcoin's never going to have another crypto winter. Bitcoin's never going back 75 or 85%. There's too much real money in it for that to happen. Now, I will say this went further than I expected. So let's take a look from top to bottom because this pullback was vicious. So we hit back in October, we had hit 100 and there should be another line here, and there is 126,000 down to 60,000. That's 52%. So I have been calling for a 40 to 45% pullback. So this is worse than what I thought the worst case scenario would be. So I will say that freely. This hit a number I didn't think it was going to hit. But it hit it the way that it hit it. I feel very comfortable that this was the perfect storm. And by the way, let's everybody think about what yesterday was. Historically speaking, being one of the 3 worst days in the history of Bitcoin, depending on how you measure it. What was yesterday? I'll give you the quick answer. Nothing. Yesterday was nothing. One of the other 2 worst days in the history of Bitcoin was March 10th, 2020. There was a certain virus going around. If anybody remembers that one, not really allowed to say it on YouTube. So you're talking the world shutting down.
Why would Mara sell yesterday?
They moved a lot of them on chain. Are you sure they sold Sour Melon Gaming? I saw they moved them on chain. I didn't see a verification that they sold them. So if they did, I think that that's not a smart move. I know that they're trying to build out infrastructure. I think they're about to announce a deal, but I sure hope they didn't sell 13. And again, that's 2% of their Bitcoin. So it's not like it's a game changer for them, but I wouldn't like to see them sell any, hitting a new low.
Most things, yeah.
There's no sense in that. So that's a good question.
Well, it doesn't mean they didn't buy them back either.
Marathon has some planning to do, and I think you can see Marathon was up 22% today. So let's just sidetrack myself. So we're down 52%. I think that was it. That's your bear market I've been calling for and saying that we're in the middle of for almost 4 months now. And yes, I do think this is the bottom. I will absolutely admit nothing is out of the question. Nothing is off the table. So, the main thing I would tell everybody is don't listen to any one person. Don't watch any one indicator, because I'm going to show you a bunch of different things, every one of which tells a different story. And then I'm going to show you an article where we're at. And where we're at is nobody knows what the hell happened yesterday. Nobody. Everything that I watched, everything that I looked at, there wasn't one person that could point to, and there's theories galore, mystery theories. Yesterday was just another day. It wasn't the 2018 financial crisis where the stock market collapsed. That was one of the worst days in the history of Bitcoin. It wasn't the day we shut the world down and told everybody they need to go home and they can't come back out. Nope, it wasn't that day. It was Thursday. Thursday, February, nothing. Nothing happened. Yet, worst day in the history of Bitcoin. And I'm going to show you the metrics by which I'm measuring that, because, there's 100 different ways to measure this, but objectively speaking, several of these point to this being the first, second, or third worst day in the history of Bitcoin, depending on how you measure, was yesterday. Again, and you can put in the comments if you know some massive event that should have shaken this type of a market move to this type of a one-day move, this type of a new low. And I want to show you, I'm jumping all over the place, George, but there's so much that happened. I want to go to the daily RSI. I called this out Tuesday to the members on the live stream, and it was screaming. And I'm going to show you. So we're just going to go to the daily RSI. So relative strength index, for those of you who know or don't know, I'm going to do a 10-second primer course. 30 for most things, for most equities, 30 is considered oversold, meaning it's on a selling spree. All the other technicals usually line up that you're nearing a bottom, you're going through a bottoming process, and you're due to rally. It can get below 30. With cryptocurrencies, which are ultra volatile, it does get below 30. Now, 70 is considered overbought, meaning it's kind of a top. You probably can expect a pullback sometime soon. I always use 80 as that number with cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency, as well as the Bitcoin mining stocks, frequently get to 85, sometimes to 90 on the upside when they get rolling. When Bitcoin gets rolling, there's no stopping it. But 70 and 30 are the benchmarks. Yesterday, we got down to 15.85 on the daily RSI. So you got to go back. I'm going to go back in time. Right? Oh, here was a bad time. February 2025. We were at 24. Yesterday, we were in the 15s. Okay. See, and you'll see it does go under 30. Right? 26. 26. August of 2023, some big panic all the way down to 19. Still not where we were yesterday. This is the history of Bitcoin, folks. So this was not this halving, this was the last halving. So I'm now 2 halvings back, and there hasn't been one single time that the daily RSI was as bad as it was yesterday. That is for the last 2 halvings. Okay, so now we go here. Okay, March of 2020. I'm pretty sure we all know exactly what happened here. Right? Think I'm allowed to say there was a virus. The world shut down. So, okay, we had a catastrophic event on this day. So, look where we reached. Exactly the same spot. This was 15, we got to 15.85. This was 15.62. So, within tiny percentage of almost the exact same number. That's the second worst day in history. Then you got to go back. This is the 2018 financial crisis in November of 2018. So this was the worst oversold we've ever been. So basically yesterday was tied for the second worst oversold we've ever been in the history of Bitcoin. See, I'll go back all the way to the beginning. It never touches that line again. Now, somebody tell me what was special about yesterday. What was the reason that it was equal to a worldwide pandemic where the world shut down? Because to my knowledge, nothing happened yesterday. Let me know if I missed some news, because I sure looked. And oh, by the way, while Bitcoin was the worst thing to own in the history of the world yesterday, today it had one of the best days it's ever had in its history. So for those of you who have been laughing at George for several years, talking about market manipulation and the games that
are laughed at me, Tom.
Well, we've both been talking about it, and we have been laughed at many, many, many times. And here it is. You tell me another reason why yesterday Bitcoin was the worst asset in the history of the world, and today it's the best. What's different today than yesterday?
I mean, everybody has guests.
Has what?
Everybody has a guest, and I think everything would say it's their shopping list. How about that one? Does that make sense? Their shopping list?
I'm going to go. Let me find this article.
Hang on, I got to put it all. Hang on, Chance.
Maybe it's this one. No. That's not the right FUD. No, that's a whole different story. All right. Well, I will find that later because I don't want to waste your guys' time looking for this story. But it's basically a story going through, well, was there a giant fund in China that we don't know anything about that maybe collapsed? Was there all type of theories? No actual event though.
Has anybody looked at like the different wallets that it was, or you know what I mean?
There is no pinpointing. This is what I'm saying. There's not one person that can pinpoint and say that happened yesterday. So I see some people saying the US-Iran tensions, and yeah, the US-Iran have tensions and they have talks. I mean, this is very far from the peak of US-Iran tensions. It's gotten a lot worse than this, and it might get worse in the future, but then
here, I'm gonna put you guys can laugh. Is Bitcoin going to zero, Tom? That's the question. Everybody brings up that guy, what's his name? Peta?
Who?
I don't know, some billionaire dude saying if you knew who invented Bitcoin, you wouldn't be in it.
I see Dave trying to tell me something here. Seeking alpha, Bitcoin gets a zero price target in wake of Burry warning February 5th, 2020. Michael Burry's not moving the market. This dude's been calling for Bitcoin to go to zero for 8 years. By the way, he called for silver to crash yesterday as well. I mean, that guy knows he's got one move, and he was right one time, and he made a lot of money on it, but he's got one move.
Why would, just so you know, Waffles, yours was flagged, and Gareth, yours is flagged. I don't know why this would be flagged. Why is this flagged?
What does it say?
Why would that be flagged? Epstein rumor being created on Bitcoin. Why would that be flagged? Why?
I don't know.
Freaking losers.
There's a lot of things we can guess at, but you can see, just look in here. You've got, old Jock saying, did the U.S. national debt hit 40 trillion or something? I mean, even that would just be an arbitrary, and I think you're just, you get your point. There's no
listen to my song, guys. I just put it up in there when you got a second. Obviously, don't do it now.
Trump's announced more tariffs. I get it, old Jock. But all these things, even if all that were true, I see Manny saying quantum. None of those are new stories. By the way, quantum is ridiculous. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about it. We will later if you're interested. But the quantum story is a joke. It's an absolute joke. It's ridiculous. It's of no meaning whatsoever. It gets so much talk that these are the types of things that make me know there's intentional FUD manipulating the market, because people worried about quantum computers hacking their cryptocurrency, particularly Bitcoin, are living in a dream world. So you can call that, take whatever you want, but I'm telling you, that's my opinion, and that is based on hundreds of hours of research on that exact matter. So that is a fantasy fairy tale. And we do talk about it from time to time. And I think most of the usual people here are sick of me explaining why quantum computers don't matter. So I'm not going to do it again right now, but go look into it yourself. If you're selling your cryptocurrency, particularly Bitcoin in specific, because you think there's a quantum threat, then you better do a deeper dive. That's all I can say. But this is the perfect chat because we've got 25 different guesses as to what happened yesterday. And that's my exact point. We can guess the answer. That means nothing happened.
Nothing happened, Tom.
I see other things I'm not even going to mention, or they'll cut the stream. So all kinds of theories about what's going on. But in reality, what's going on is we got manipulated. And I had 2 long conversations with people I know extremely well, and they were wrecked yesterday. They were wrecked. And
I was wrecked, but I don't care about what happens this year.
You were not one of the 2 at all. You took it like a champ. But I had 2 other people that were just.
Well, here's the thing.
Total capitulation. Total capitulation. They both didn't. I did not give them financial advice, but I gave them a little life advice, and we had a nice talk. And they both decided they were both going to sell everything they have yesterday. And do you know how many people went through and actually did that? I don't either, but I bet it was a lot of people.
Tom, how many people lost Bitcoin yesterday?
Oh, the liquidations were, I think, $2.6 billion yesterday. And it's adding up, folks, because this is time after time. $1 billion liquidation, $1.5 billion liquidation, $2.6 billion liquidation. And guess what? That means all your money's gone. When you get liquidated, that's not a margin call that you correct. That just means all your money's gone. Gone. Not coming back. No chance to double down or whatever the case, or buy and hold. Your money's gone.
But you can, just so you know, Tom, you can change your allocations.
If you get there in time, you can do things before it gets there. But if a liquidation gets triggered on most of these crypto exchanges, your money is immediately gone forever. And people are out there 25x leveraging, 50x leveraging, 100x leveraging, and still they have not learned their lesson. Now, listen, if you're 2x leveraging or 3x leveraging and you have a lot of experience in the market and you understand the risk involved with it, fine. I do some of that, through ETFs. But I understand the risk that's involved. And I put how much I want in. And again, even in those, you're not going to lose all your money. You're just 2 or 3x leveraging, and they're going to go down 2 or 3 times faster than the asset if the asset collapses, right? If you had in the United States, there is no 3x leverage on cryptocurrency that I know about, but there's a lot of 2x leverage. And on a day where Bitcoin was down 14%, if you were 2x leveraged, you were down 28%. That's a disaster.
So you bought a whole bunch of stuff yesterday, Tom? Did you buy any Bitcoin miners?
I bought a bunch of Bitcoin miners. So let me go to my chart. And is this a good time to tell everybody what? Let's get a new poll going. Wow. This has just been 50-50 all the way. Is the 4-year cycle still intact and crypto winner ahead? I'm ending it right now because it's 50-50. And this is the perfect poll because that right there tells you how confused the market is as to what's going on right now. Is it a crypto winner? Are we about to head into a nightmare? Was that the bottom and we're about to bounce into new all-time highs? Are we going to go sideways in misery for 7 months? You ask 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different answers right now. The market is confused. So, Pogo, I will show. I'll show you guys next. What I did today in So I see somebody saying, I got burned, no more leveraging for me. You can get wrecked, and it can happen fast. If you're 100x leveraged, if something goes down 1%, all your money's gone. So that's the problem. If you put $100,000 into an ETF that's a 2x leverage or 3x leverage, if it goes down 1%, you lose 3% of your money. If you put it into 100x leverage, if it goes down 1%, all your $100,000 is gone. It's now zero. So please be careful. All of these everything always seems like a golden opportunity. It's why I usually don't like to call bottoms. This is the second time that I have done this. And I'll put a caveat. The last time, April 8th, 2024 was the most obvious bottom I've ever seen. This one, listen, this has been the bumpiest ride ever. So I am trading that as if it's the bottom. I'm telling you, that's my opinion. Time will tell as to whether or not that's true. Could we go down and test 55,000? Could we candle wick down to 50,000? I can't say that that's impossible. I don't believe that's going to happen. I am not trading. If it does happen, I do think it will be a one-day candle wick and it'll be another buying opportunity. But that's my opinion. We're not going to know until this all plays out. But I feel pretty good today about the stuff I bought yesterday because most of it's up 20% in one day.
You don't want to take the win?
No, because these things are still priced at ridiculous numbers, in my opinion. I bought, which one did I buy in this? I bought Marathon with a 6 handle on it. It was in the 6s.
Probably going to go lower.
You think it's going to go lower?
We'll probably get back to the 3s.
I just don't see it. I think it's ludicrous at these numbers. And, I had just gotten through saying I'm not going to dollar cost average unless something drastic happens. Well, something drastic happened. We had basically the worst day in the history of Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin miners did much worse than Bitcoin. So These things were down. Forget the fact that they were down 15 or 20% yesterday. They were down 30 or 40% on the week, a lot of these. So this was...
You know, in October, I got out of a lot of everything, and I kept in just a little bit. That's down. That little bit is down almost 70% right now.
It's brutal. It is brutal.
Brutal. I don't even think you can say that. Make up a new word because it's unfathomable.
It's torturous.
Yeah.
And I see Heimerb, probably pronounced that grossly incorrect. Thanks for being a member. Said, I bought IREN in personal account after hours and sold for 9% profit today. So there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, if you got in and out, this was a dramatic turn. I want to just talk about the board for a minute. Marathon's up 22.44% today. CleanSpark's up 21.96% today. Bitfarms is up 25.51% today. That's on news. We're going to talk about that news. Those are the ones over 20%. Now, TeraWolf up 19.88%. Hut 19.29%. Riot 19.82%. For all intents and purposes, those round up to 20%. A 20% move in one day. I mean, that's not how this stuff is supposed to work. Now, we know with Bitcoin miners, we do get these days. Some of them are green and some of them are red. We had some red days like this week. With this green board, which is one of the biggest up days I've ever seen, most of the Bitcoin miner stocks were down on the week. You've got Bitfarms up 25% today and down on the week. You got Marathon up 22% today and down on the week. That's how bad this week was. So that's why I feel there was capitulation this week. Volumes hit record highs. The RSI hit record lows. We set a lot of records on a day that really should have just been just some random day. So that's the day they picked. That's whatever their opportunity was, whatever their algorithm showed them. That's the day they picked. That's the day they got. And I can tell you, they got most of the people out. So if you're still here, congratulations. If you got to participate in this 20 to 25% up day, congratulations, because that means you were able to stomach what was one of the worst weeks in the history of Bitcoin miners. And that's saying something, because these are some of the most volatile stocks I've ever seen. Oh, thank you, Summer of Gains. I forgot to mention Microstrategy, up 26% today. By the way, that's one of the ones I bought. It's up 26% today. To me, that was the most obvious buying opportunity, and I think there's good things ahead there. I'm not in love with their business model. I'm just going to tell you, and I don't think they're ever going to trade at the multiples they once traded at, but there's easy room for a double or a triple or a quadruple in MicroStrategy. And there's nothing wrong with having a stock that's maybe going to anywhere from double to quadruple in a reasonable period of time. So I feel very good about adding that, particularly since I sold MicroStrategy 9 months ago for $350, and I bought it back yesterday for $109. So I feel very good about the in and out of that one. By the way, I sold that for IREN and Riot at the time when I got out of MicroStrategy, and IREN was at $6. So even after IREN's bad week today, it's at $42. I bought it at $6 9 months ago. So, that was a grand slam home run, thankfully, because on the flip side, Marathon's been a nightmare. That's one of my big positions. My cost basis, let's put it this way. my cost basis in Marathon is more than any other position in my portfolio. It is by far not the biggest position in my portfolio, but if you look at my cost basis, that's the stock I've put the most money into. And the reason is it's just given that many more opportunities to dollar cost average into, unless you believe they're going to fail and go out of business. I know a lot of people believe that, and I get it. Right? It's not like they've set the world on fire. They are not leading, they're following. But they also have the balance sheet of Fort Knox, and they have a lot of relationships, and all they have to do is get back to they're at a place that's so unreasonably low. This does not have to be a Grand Slam winner. They just have to do okay. If they can perform 5 out of 10, I think that's a stock that doubles or triples. So that's a pretty low bar, in my opinion, for what needs to happen for that to do what I am hoping it will do. Larry said, I agree, Tom, on Microstrategy, which is now Strategy, I guess. Doug said, isn't Strategy diluted to the max? They're not diluted to the max. They do a lot of dilution, but it's a pittance compared to what they own in Bitcoin. So now I will tell you, with that said, Bitcoin went under. MicroStrategy was upside down from a cost basis standpoint in Bitcoin yesterday, a couple of days this week. And that has not happened before. So that was new territory for them. But having said that, Michael Saylor himself came out yesterday and said, and I'm going to paraphrase, but this is fairly close. He said, MicroStrategy will fail if Bitcoin's unable to do anything for the next 100 years. Anything short of that, and we're okay. He said, if Bitcoin is still trading at this price 10 years from now, we will have paid every dividend in those 10 years. We will have paid all of our interest in those 10 years, and we'll be totally fine. And I'm looking at his balance sheet and saying, yeah, that's true. Now, the equity, it'll be a horrible investment from an equity standpoint, but even that would not knock them out of business. I certainly wouldn't want to hold their stock through that, right? That would be a bad investment. But to his point, it's like everybody's like, oh, they're going to have to liquidate. They're going to have to sell. They're going to have to, what's the number? Where are they? No, there is no number. There's no number of years. There's no dollar number, barring the end of Bitcoin. Obviously, if it's on its way to zero, then everything fails. So, if you believe that, you're probably not here listening right now. Let's get to some.
Bitcoin's going to zero, Tom.
Bitcoin to zero.
Peter Schiff told me.
Peter Schiff told you it's going to zero. I believe he said that. Listen, you're going to get, I don't care. Bitcoin could hit $10 million and there's still going to be a chorus of people that are talking about how it's not real and it's going to zero. I was one of those people 8 years ago.
I know.
Now, Bitcoin was at, $500. When you and I first talked about it, it was at, I bet it wasn't $10.
No, it was a few pennies.
And it wasn't anything. I didn't know. This has turned into something, but the bottom line is all that's ancient history now. Whatever anybody thought it was going to be or worried about what was going to happen, it's done. BlackRock has the biggest ETF in the Bitcoin world, and BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF is the most successful ETF of any ETF in the history of ETFs. So if you guys think that's a passing phase that's going to zero, there's $14 trillion at BlackRock that says otherwise. And that's just one example of the adoption that's occurring. but you're going to get FUD. We still get, I have a bunch of the articles up. We still have people saying it's no good. You got to stay away from it. It's a disaster. It's unsafe. It's wrong. It's morally wrong. It's financially irresponsible. You're going to get, there's going to be noise. There's always going to be noise. So can you weed through the noise and find out, the facts? Even that's not going to, ever lead to perfect things in the short term. And Summer of Gains is saying STRC at par. Its ATM will be a Bitcoin buying machine for MicroStrategy. So that's true. I will be interested to see. I'm going to do a poll. And I'm going to give you my number first because my number is probably wrong. Let me do the poll. Give me just 1 minute to type this in. Okay, how many Bitcoin? On Monday, MicroStrategy will tell us how many Bitcoin that they bought this week. I'm going to go to the chart and show you guys what they have done in the past to put things in perspective. I believe MicroStrategy bought 40,000 Bitcoin this week.
40,000?
40,000. Now, will that be their biggest week ever? No, it will not.
What?
A few weeks ago, they bought 22,000 Bitcoin. So, you can see here, this week they bought 3 Bitcoin. So every number is on the table. You don't know. Last week, press refresh and make sure I get it. Yeah, there was a week missing. Last week, they bought 855 Bitcoin. A few weeks ago, they bought 22,000, 13,000. But let me go down and show you some numbers. If we go a little ways back here.
Dude, this is going to help their average tremendously.
This is November of 2024. This is 2 weeks in a row. Okay? 2 weeks. So this is in a 2-week period. 51,780 on the week of November 18th, 2024. And then 55,500 the week of November 25th. They bought 100,000 Bitcoin in 2 weeks. I believe they're in a scenario where this was one of these types of weeks because they got to know this is the first chance they've had to dollar cost average in and dollar cost their average down in years. So this was a golden opportunity. We will see. Did they take advantage of it or did they sit on the sideline? I just can't fathom. If they sat on the sideline for this, that's going to leave me with my head scratching. I'm expecting this is going to be one of those weeks. Could it be 20,000? I guess, right? Who knows? 20,000, by the way, that's a lot of Bitcoin. There aren't too many companies that in total own 20,000 Bitcoin. I've only a hand. You can count them on your fingers. Dan,
well,
thanks.
Think they bought more than 20.
That's what I'm saying. I think they bought 40. I think they bought 40,000 Bitcoin. That's what I think. And again, that is a total guess, but it's based on their buying history. It wouldn't be unprecedented. And in fact, there was a 2-week period. They crushed that last year, a little over a year ago now. And this is the first time they've had a chance to dollar cost average in well below their average. Right? They've been dollar cost averaging up for years. Now they can flip that around and get that average down. Dan's asking, which one hits 25 first, Cleanspark or Marathon? That's a no-brainer. In my opinion, Cleanspark. So,
is that why you bought Strategy, by the way?
why? Because they bought a lot of coins this week?
Yeah.
I bought Strategy because that's one of the reasons. Bitcoin is at this low point. People were decimating Strategy. It was pulled back. Remember, I'm going to go to Strategy. Right, I sold Strategy. It must have been somewhere. Right, because it was around in the 350 area. So I'm looking at this going, okay, this is yesterday. Down over 70% since I sold it less than a year ago. And they have a couple 100,000 more Bitcoin. Their MNAV, which I will show you, did get under $1 or 1, and it's now 1.17. So when that got under 1, it was trading for less than its net value. I think that is a hard floor for Strategy. It may never get to 3 or 4 MNAV ever again. But I think there's a hard floor at 1.0. This is not a company that has 18,000 Bitcoin or 4,000 Bitcoin or 26,000 Bitcoin. They have over 700,000 Bitcoin. So they are bigger than everybody else put together. And they will get to 1 million sooner than later. So I think at a bare minimum, they are going to trade the value of their Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin bottomed yesterday. So I do think with them at a 1, yesterday being at a 1 MNAV, I could have bought Bitcoin and it would go up 1 to 1. I think MicroStrategy is going to go up better than 1 to 1. I think this MNAV is going to go up to about 1.5, which means I'm going to get the entire lift in whatever Bitcoin goes to. Plus, I'm going to get a 50% bonus because MicroStrategy is going to trade it at a premium as Bitcoin recovers. That's my thesis. So is that going to be true? We'll wait and find out. But that's why I bought MicroStrategy instead of just buying more Bitcoin. We'll see how that plays out. If you could do us a huge favor and smash the like button, it makes a big difference for the stream in real time. I was like 2 minutes late today. I said I would be on time from now on. I'm going to try my absolute best to stick to that. So appreciate everybody showing up to the stream. Okay, let's keep going. We haven't really got to a lot of the news. So I want to go, I'm going to start with Bitfarms because George, today is your day.
Why is my day? What is it my day for?
Bitfarms shares surge after it ditches its Bitcoin company identity and doubles down on AI with US move.
The
company
only took I think it might be 4 years.
So we've been calling, George started it, and we've been calling for Bitfarms to move to the United States. They said they were going to do this quite some time ago, but you'll see Bitfarms unveiled plans to move its legal base from Canada to the United States and rebrand, by the way, as Keel Infrastructure. So that breaks a little piece of my heart. There will be no more Bitfarms. They will now be Keel Infrastructure because I've been with Bitfarms a long time through good times and a lot of bad times. And I'm still with them right now. But this is what they're doing. The shift is part of the firm's pivot from Bitcoin mining to building data centers for high-performance computing and artificial intelligence workloads. I want to get to something in specific. The re-domiciling process announced in a Friday press release will be subject to shareholder, regulatory, and court approvals. A shareholder vote is scheduled for March 20th. So that's next month. If approved, the company expects their transition to close by April 1st. So that's the first quarter. Technically, it's 1 day past. The first quarter of 2026, they will be listed on the U.S., on the NASDAQ in the U.S. as a U.S. company. That seems like it doesn't matter, but the reality is there are trillions of dollars that will not invest in companies that don't meet that criteria. And a third criteria, which is totally arbitrary, which is they need to get back over $5. This will help them do that.
How much were they up today, Tom?
So they were up 25.51% today. Still leaving them down for the week. That's how hard this week was. So for those of you who were feeling it, for those of you who were panicking and feeling the pain yesterday, you were not alone. This is one of the hardest weeks to get through in crypto history, and that includes all the crypto winters. Now, I'm not saying it's alone. There have been other weeks. Many of us remember the crypto winters, and they're nightmares.
Tom,
But
do you think that the purchase of Stronghold is going to end up being positive with power?
I think it changed their whole game. There's no question in my mind about it.
So is that because of the cost of an increase of power? Or
Right.
is it just because
it's because
they have the power.
They have a source of power, and that is the name of the game now. For all of these Bitcoin mining companies, we've been calling them Bitcoin mining companies for 5 years. The reality is, at this point, some of them are still Bitcoin mining companies. Some of them aren't. Many of them won't be by the next halving. They are data center energy infrastructure plays.
Sour. I went to lunch with Tom, and Tom said, I'm going to retire off of Bitfarms alone. That's what he said. Just so you know, he believes in Keel.
What I didn't know at the time is I guess it's going to be off of Keel.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Are you expecting good things?
Yes, they are most of the way through repositioning their company. And it was a tough road. And if you remember, let's go to that one. Let's go to Bitfarms, because this has been a roller coaster. This red line right here. This is their 1 day chart. This is April of 2025. This is June of 2025. They were trading at 68 cents. Our big argument here on the channel was, when and if they're going to have to do a reverse stock split so they don't get thrown off the exchange. Instead, what happened is they had an 850% run-up in their stock. Now, like most of the Bitcoin miners, since then, they pulled back 75%. But that still leaves them triple what they were 8 months ago. So they're still up 300% from 8 months ago. Right, if we go from 68 to where they closed today, that's 221%. That's over a 3x from where they were, not very long ago, much less than a year ago. So I do think they'll make another run at this. And it was important. They're out of Bitcoin mining. They haven't turned their last machine off, but you can see this press release is saying they're segueing. They got a hold of some power. They've added more to their portfolio, and they're going to lean into that, and they're going to do what works. They tried to go to a couple of other countries. They took some risks. Those risks did not pay off. And they had to dramatically reshape their business model. In the middle of all of that, Riot tried to do a hostile takeover that never stood a chance. I called it out on that day and every day since. That was ridiculous. It never stood a chance. But what it did do was suppress Bitfarms stock dramatically, and it changed their ability to raise capital, and it changed their ability to stay on plan. That crushed them. Now, you can blame Bitfarms, right? Ultimately, I guess they're responsible for whatever happens to their company, their management. So they got rid of their CEO. That was another fiasco. First, they were parting ways with their CEO on friendly terms, and he was going to help recruit a new CEO. Then all of a sudden, he was fired, terminated, walked out of the building.
In handcuffs?
No. I will just tell you, they then promoted Ben Gagnon to CEO, and I know a lot of you might think he's young, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is my opinion. And, you know, I don't know Ben. We had one conversation. He is a extremely smart individual. He's very technically savvy. And the thing is, he has a massive track record. He was operations. And nobody ever complained about Bitfarms operations. It was always top tier out of all the Bitcoin miners from an operations standpoint. It was the business model that was not working. So I think this is playing out. I think, you know, and I understand he's got to report to the board, and to some extent they're driving the bus, but I have good confidence in this. They may not be the best company on the list, but I think there's good things ahead for Bitfarms, or now what will be Keel. And then I'll leave it at that because people are sick of hearing about Bitfarms. But up 25% today. Got to mention it.
Well, I just can tell you one thing. We won't mention Bitcoin too often anymore. I mean, Bitfarms, because we'll be calling them Keel.
That's right. Yeah, we only got a month and a half left of ever saying that word again. So everybody's going to get their wish. How many Bitcoin did Microstrategy buy this week? Less than 5,000, 25% of you think that. 5 to 10,000, 20% of you think that. 10 to 20,000, 9%. And in first place by far, more than, and I spelled that wrong, more than 20,000, 45%, almost half of you think they bought more than 20,000 this week. I'm in that bucket. I think they bought 40. Obviously, I'm not going to be shocked and fall out of my chair if it's 20 or 25 or 30. I will be shocked if it's 5. They will have missed an opportunity that probably will never come their way again if they bought 5,000 or less. So that would be a disappointment to me. And I see someone in the comments saying, correct, Ben knows what he is doing. And Alim is asking me, Tom, what do you think of Hive? I will tell you what I think of Hive. I sold 25% of my Hive position. So yesterday, I very rarely sell anything, ever. But there was some stocks, there was some bargains yesterday that I wanted to get my hands on, and I had to sell a couple of things to do it. So I'll break that down in the members only chat. I'm going to give you guys a summary today, so you'll know what I did. But I'll spend some time over the weekend putting the numbers together for the members. I'll just put a spreadsheet of exactly what I did. But I sold 25% of my Hive, not because I think they're going to fail. Right, I kept 75% of my Hive, and that was a big holding for me. But I just think it's better allocated in the things that I bought, and there's some things I wasn't in at all while I had a huge position in Hive. So I wanted to rebalance my Hive position because I'm actually up quite a bit on that position. And the other thing I sold is I've been holding URTY for quite some time now. I was up about 180% on that. So for me, that's found money. So I was able to cash out, take those profits. And again, this is like the second trade I made in the last year. I dollar cost average in all the time. I very rarely sell. So it was time. That's a 3x leverage, 2 or 3x leverage, I can't remember right now, of the Russell 2000. And the Russell 2000 about a year and a half ago was just so overdue to make a run that I was highly confident. So I put money in that. It, almost tripled. I sold all of it. And I will show you guys what I bought with that. And time will tell. I'm going to track that like I did my other trade. And again, that was 9 months ago. I very rarely make trades. I dollar cost average in when I can, but I very rarely, I'll be taking, hopefully this will be a year of taking profits, but we'll see. So let me go, made that list somewhere. Okay. So first of all, this was my previous trade, and I got to go 2/6/2026. So 289 days ago, I sold all my Microstrategy for $349.73. Again, I bought some yesterday for $109. So since I sold Microstrategy, it's down 61%. And that includes, it's up 26% today. So, and it's still down 61%. But the things that I bought are up 332%. So this was, for me, a great trade. Most of it really was IREN. IREN's still up 507. Even after pulling back so dramatically, it's still up 578% from where I bought it. Hive's up 36%. Riot's almost double from where I bought it, despite the fact that it's pulled back. So this has worked out so far. Until I sell these, we don't know if this is a good trade or a bad trade because time is going to march on. And so we'll see if this ends up a win. But right now, obviously at the moment, on paper, it's a huge win. This is what I did. I sold 100% of my URTY. I sold 25% of my Hive. I bought CIFR, which I own none of prior to yesterday. TeraWolf, which I owned none of prior to yesterday. Marathon, which I've been dollar cost averaging into forever. Cleanspark, which I've been dollar cost averaging into forever. And then I bought a double. So I split this into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. All of these got 1 part. Microstrategy got 2 parts. So 2 parts Microstrategy, 1 part CIFR, Wolf, Marathon, and Cleanspark. So I will track these against URTY and Hive over the course of the next year or a couple of years, and we'll see if this turned out to be a smart move. I can tell you, after day 1, it's looking good. But there's we're not counting, nothing counts after day 1. I think Hive is undervalued. So to answer your question, Lim, I think it's undervalued. I worry that they're still so heavily reliant on the Bitcoin mining end. They are gearing up for high performance computing, but they are not at the scale even close to a CIFR or an IREN or a TeraWolf or Riot, which has 700 megawatts set aside for high performance computing. Cleanspark, which has made some big moves they talked about in their quarterly financials yesterday. Big moves into high performance computing. So I do worry that they're disproportionately, they caught up. They're doing great on their Bitcoin mining, but I don't
think Bitfarms came up with their name Keel because they're killing the environment? Sorry.
They're healing the environment,
Oh,
George.
yeah, they're healing it.
Remember, Stronghold, what they were doing. For those of you who don't know, if you know, it's Stronghold is.
I was listening to Elon Musk talk today, and he said that China is going to 3x the power of the United States. The 3x, meaning 3 times more power in China than in the United States.
So I have two answers to Elon Musk, who I'm going to start out by saying, and a lot of people won't like this, I think the guy's a genius. He's an absolute genius. I admire what he's done. I think he's going to do a lot of good things ahead, but that statement right there is ridiculous.
Oh, really? You don't think that's true?
No, it is not true. And by the way, for those of you counting, the vast majority, and I mean the vast majority of China's energy, as well as their new energy, almost 100%, is coal. By the time we get to 2032, China will be responsible for something like 90% of coal usage on this earth. Take that for whatever it's worth.
And aren't they still an emerging market?
Right. So they have a special exemption from this ridiculous treaty that everybody signed that allows China to expand indefinitely. So what they've done, they're 10 or 20xing. They're building mining coal mines that they don't even plan to start mining for years because they're allowed to build them for the next 5 years. So they know they're going to build 20 years worth in the next 5 years, and they'll implement them over the next 20 years. So their amount of coal that they mine, it's already by far more than any other country in the world, and it will grow substantially over the next 5 to 10 years, both in real numbers and in correlation to what the rest of the world is doing. That just is what it is. And, you know, that's not an opinion. That's what's happening.
It's funny. Wolfpack, I got to give a shout out to him. He said, remember, in volatility, it goes both ways. If you want the 25% ups, unfortunately, you're going to have the 25% downs.
Yeah, there's no well, we just lived it. This week is no better evidence that this cuts two ways.
Volatility.
I'm going to go to what happened on the week, because as we look at everything up 15 to 25% today, which is one of the great days, it still couldn't save this week. Here's this week. It's a train wreck. TerraWolf up 7%. That was the only Bitcoin miner in the green. That was on news. We'll talk about their news. BitDeer. You know, first of all, let's talk about. All right, that's the wrong color. Those must have switched. So Bitcoin's down 16% this week, despite rallying 11% today. So this was to talk about how difficult this week was. This was a brutal, difficult week. So Bitcoin down 16%. And again, remember, in the context of the fact that almost every one of these stocks was up somewhere between 15 and 25% today, you have IREN down 22% on the week. Now, you're going to see that thing was off to the races, you know, for the last 12 months. Hive down 16%. CleanSpark down 15%. Marathon was up 22% today. That left it down 13% for the week. That's how bad this. So by the time that bell rang for the market to close yesterday, if you were holding Marathon and CleanSpark and IREN and Hive, like I am, you were having a bad week. So
you're opening the window at a 10-story room in a 10-story building. Should I?
And Old Jock is saying China almost building a coal power station every week recently. Yeah, they are. And most of them, they don't even plan on using for years.
Tom, we're at 79 likes. If you would.
Oh,
hit the like
wow.
button.
Did not get to, our goal is 100 likes live. If you guys could help us, it does help the channel a lot. And we appreciate all of you showing up and participating in the chat and supporting the channel. And Sour Melon Gaming said, I went to bed last night pissed off. You are not alone.
I didn't even think about it.
George went there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like, it is what it is. It's gonna, this is just
Good night, Pogo.
part of the game. You know what I mean? It's part of the game. And whether you believe in the 5 to 10 year plan for Bitcoin, it's just, here's my question. Someone wrote me a message, and he's a little bit out there, wacko, that Bitcoin is going to change because it can't continue to go on the way it currently is because of the way they could use it to send pictures around.
That what? What's that?
So,
I'm sorry.
On the back end of Bitcoin, you can send pictures or notes to people using Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, you talked to me about that. I actually don't really know a lot about that part of the Bitcoin on the blockchain.
So what he's saying is the reason why the Clarity Act didn't get passed is because of that little feature that is on Bitcoin. I don't know. Do people know about this, or am I telling something new to people?
I don't know. Sour Mountain Gaming, thanks. He said, hit the like button.
You bastards. There it is. Oversized gains without oversized losses.
Embrace the volatility if your game is oversized gains. Yeah, I mean, that's what you've got to do. And I can tell you, like, I'm not going to say, oh, I was fine yesterday. Yesterday was awesome. I did not like yesterday, but
I laughed, honestly.
I was level. I tried to stay totally level.
You know how, like, you get to, like, the insane asylum laughing?
Yeah.
That's what I was at.
If you can't find a way to stay somewhere near even, this just gets too brutal because look at this week. I mean, it's treacherous.
Everything I made is gone. Was gone. I shouldn't say that.
Well, and look at XRP's taking a roller coaster ride.
Right, that's what I mean, yeah. I think I would say this to all the coins I've loved before. I'm glad you came along to celebrate this song. Right?
So VP's asked me, Tom, do you regret not taking any profits previous year and de-risking your positions? We go from 0 to 100, back to 0. I don't regret it at all. For those of you who have been able to play and time the market, I congratulate you. You win. You're doing better than I am. My portfolio is way up. So despite the ups and downs and bumps in the road, by dollar cost averaging, I'm still way up. Now, if we go into a big crypto winter, maybe I'll get back to break even or worse. I don't know. But that's not what I'm expecting. That's not my trading thesis. And I'm not going to get out because then you risk. So I'm a long-term investor for the most. That's like I told you, this is my second trade in a year. I dollar cost average in, but I rarely sell and take profits. And I think my URTY, I feel really good about it because it ran up monumentally. And I just don't think we're going to get that kind of run up again in the market over the next year versus the Bitcoin / data center companies. I think they are primed for a big run. So I don't kick myself. One of my rules is just I don't second guess. I have a plan, I execute the plan, and it either works or it doesn't work. And at some point there's an entry strategy, there's an exit strategy, and I do what I do. So if you're constantly second guessing yourself, right? A month from now, everybody might look back and go, "Man, I should have mortgaged my house on February 5th, and I missed my chance. I should." But you can't do that because it's one day at a time, and what's done is done.
Yeah, but then again, too, in April it could come along, and you could say, "Oh my God, I should have got out in March." You know what I mean?
Exactly right. By April, maybe these numbers will look like a dream.
Tom, are you, from your principle, from when you started investing into these crazy Bitcoin miners and AI hopefuls, are you up or down from your principle?
Up.
Oh, good.
I'm up, and I'll tell you why I'm up, and it's not complicated.
IREN.
Well, that didn't hurt. Let's take Bitfarms. That's trading at $2.14. It used to be at $6. It used to be at $9. But guess what? There was a year or a year and a half where this thing was trading. This was 37 cents. I was buying Bitfarms. I didn't get any at 37, but I got some at 38 and 39. I got some at 42 cents. I got some at 45 cents. I got some at 47 cents. You get my point. Like, my cost basis in Bitfarms is in the neighborhood of $1. So did I like life a lot better when Bitfarms was at $6? Yep. But at $2, I'm still up 100% on my Bitfarms because I dollar cost averaged in when it was paying. Trust me, you can look back and go, "Oh yeah, well, that was easy." It was not easy to buy on this day. Nobody was buying. Volume was non-existent. There were no buyers here, and that's why it got to 37 cents. So if you have the stomach to do that and do this and then do it again and then watch it go up and watch it come back down, I bought again here, I bought again here, right? I mean, this was years of opportunities to get my dollar, because trust me, I bought some a lot higher than that prior to that. So I had to get that dollar cost average down, and I was able to do so. And the same thing with now Marathon, I'm getting crushed on. It's my only stock I'm in the red on. And I'm still down like 40% on the stock I've put the most money into. So Marathon is still in the L column for me. I think I will end up being a winner on that. I think it will be nowhere near what I thought I was going to win on Marathon, but I still think I'll end up ahead. But I'm not right now. It's the only thing I'm red on. Now, knock on wood. I hope we don't go in the wrong direction for 3 months, and I'm red on everything. But only time will tell. But this is how am I sad I didn't sell this up here? No, because I held and I bought at 30 cents and 40 cents and 50 cents and et cetera, et cetera. So, I know not everybody's been in this space for that long. A lot of you have been. I know a lot of you. Sour Melon Gaming's been with us for years and years, as have several other of you. So, and it depends. There's nothing wrong. If people took profits, I'll never criticize somebody for taking profits when their stocks run up 500, 600, 700%. That's an extremely reasonable thing to do. So, there's more than one way to go about this. Sour Melon Gaming. Miners and Bitcoin won't ever run until I sell, and I ain't selling. They will run, and you're going to get that run. I know these have been hard days, but I know you've killed it on a couple of stocks. So I won't go any further than that, but but it doesn't feel good now. Some are saying Wolf now has 2.8 gigawatts. So that's why I wanted in on Wolf, and they have a pipeline of more than that. let's just go a little bit through some financial statements because we didn't do that. I want to point out, and there's not a lot to point out. I think these financials were a non-factor. IREN got punished a little bit. They were up only 5% today. And I didn't buy any IREN because, again, I'm in at $6. So I'm not dollar cost averaging in at $40. Although I will tell you, my price target for IREN is many, many multiples higher than $40. So there's other ones I'm not in at all. So to stay diversified, you know, I've been waiting for a very long time to get into CIFR and TeraWulf. And by the end of the day yesterday, they were both down 30 or 40% on the week. So that was a buying opportunity. And, you know, I got on TeraWulf, I got 20% of it today. And on CIFR, 16%. So those were winners today. Again, that's one day. But you can see how IREN got punished for their results, which I think was just an absolute, number one, manipulation by big money and a total lack of understanding of what this company does by the standard retail investor. And I've seen some comments in the chat that tells me you guys know exactly what's going on. And the rest of the people are missing the big picture. So let me see if I can find, where did that go? Okay. IREN reports Q2 fiscal 26 results. So let's talk about, actually, I'm going to go to this. I have an article because it explains a little better what the reaction was. Here's what Wall Street analysts are saying after IREN's earning miss, and then we'll go back and talk about the earnings. The weaker results were tempered by continued progress in Bitcoin miners' shift towards AI. Okay. IREN posted a weaker than expected fiscal quarter results, with revenue falling to $184 million and losses widening. Wall Street remains split, with some analysts focused on near-term earnings pressure, while others point to de-risked AI infrastructure. B. Riley raised its price target to $83 from $74, while reiterating its buy rating on the stock. So let me get to the. Trying to find where they show. Basically, here's what happened, and I'm not going to sit here and read this whole thing until I find it. They missed Wall Street's estimates on revenue, and they missed Wall Street's estimates on earnings, profit. And to that, I have two words. Who cares? All of their revenue right now, and by all of it, I mean 90-something% of it, is from Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining was going to go from 90% of their revenue to an insignificant portion of their revenue in the next 12 months. So let me show you the statement that means more than all. We all know. Anybody that didn't know, anybody that missed their estimate on this doesn't know how to estimate, because Bitcoin was down every single month of this quarter. And so we know revenue was going to be a miss. Now, they don't have to take a write down. They don't hold any Bitcoin, but they missed on their Bitcoin mining operations. But guess what? Here, highlights. It's the second bullet point, but it should be the first. I'll read the first. 3.6 billion GPU financing secured for the Microsoft contract. Interest rates at less than 6%. This rate here is everything. Targeted 140,000 GPU expansion, on track to deliver $3.4 billion annual run rate by the end of the current year, 2026. So they had $184 million of revenue. Do I care if they're running by the fourth quarter. If they're running at a $3.4 billion top line annual run rate, that means they succeeded. They're minting money, and this is a home run. Their Bitcoin operations are a transitional thing for them to generate cash, which they did. They're still cash flow positive, and put that cash into building out their data center infrastructure. So they did all of that. And if they're a $3 billion top line company, remember, this was like a $50 million top line company 2 years ago. And if this year they're going to be a $3 billion top line company, they win. Now, they have to execute. They have shown an incredible track record of execution at this company. So I have no reason to believe, right? They put some pretty unrealistic expectations. They were at 5 exahash and they said they were going to get to 50 by the end of the year. They got there sooner than they said. They beat that expectation. This is a company that has a very strong track record of doing what they say they're going to do. Now they have a monumental contract with, multi-trillion-dollar companies. I have every reason to believe that they're going to hit this. They're telling me they're going to be at a $3.4 billion run rate in 2026. Who knows what it's going to be in 2027, but it'll be bigger than that. And by the way, the second biggest thing, new 1.6 gigawatt data center campus in Oklahoma increases secured grid-connected power to 4.5 gigawatts. That is one of the leaders out of all of these companies that we talk about. So they have access to a monumental amount of power. They already have a giant contract from a multi-billion, trillion-dollar company. And this is a company, if you want to talk about things trending in the right direction, this is the definition of trending in the right direction. So for those people that looked at this and said, well, they missed on revenue and they missed on earnings, they don't know what they're looking at, because those two things don't matter to me as an investor at all. So this is about doing due diligence, understanding the company you're investing in, and then you can process this information as they give it to you. Thank you, Sour Mountain Gaming. I appreciate it. So to me, this was the big takeaway from IREN's earnings. I don't think you need to dig a lot deeper. You can look at the balance sheet and the income statement and all their footnotes and all that kind of stuff, but it's mostly what you would expect here.
Tom, we're creeping away.
Oh,
we're at 95.
We're at 95. All right, let's go. Let's go. Do us a favor, smash the like button. Let's get there. You can see if you just go to their press release, they put their balance sheet in here. Here's a company that has $3.3 billion in current assets and $682 million in current liabilities. This is a strong balance sheet. I'm not worried about them in any way, shape, or form. Also, by the way, they fluctuate between $15 and $20 billion market cap, so their accessibility to go get $1 or $2 or $3 billion. They didn't even used to have a market cap of $1 billion. Now they can go get $1 billion and only dilute themselves 5%. This company's in good shape, in my opinion. Those are my thoughts on IREN.
We did it, Tom. Got to 100.
We got there. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. Thanks for 100 likes. I think we've missed a bunch of, we had a multi-year run of getting there every time, and then we missed a bunch of times, so we appreciate it. Do we want to put one more poll up? Because that poll's over. Now. We'll circle all the way back around. Real simple. Was yesterday the bottom for Bitcoin? We hit, and I'm going to show you on the chart. We hit, it's no coincidence. We hit $60,001.00. So clearly there was a buying wall at $60,000. And if you look at the volume, get rid of all these lines if I can. Look at the volume yesterday and today. Right? We haven't had this type of volume since November of 2024. Right? And technically yesterday was higher. So we haven't really had, this is one of the highest volume days, and it's 2 days in a row. So this is part of what I'm talking about. This is where you get capitulation. Not only do you have a huge crash, but it's on outsized, huge volumes. I mean, look at the volume on this day versus the volume yesterday, right? It was 5 or 6 or 7 times as much volume. So you're talking 2 huge volume days. You bottomed out. You've turned around, had one of the biggest green candles you've ever had in the history of Bitcoin, if not the biggest green candle. I will have to find that out. Somebody drop in the comments if you've already looked. I believe this is the biggest green candle in history.
So I have a question. Was yesterday the bottom for Bitcoin ever this year, this cycle?
Ever.
Give me a little. Ever.
That's it. If the bottom of this cycle is the bottom of forever.
Oh, this is so hard. I'm going to go with the big no.
You're going with no. It's going to get worse.
I think April. I mean, if history repeats itself and we're following the 4-year cycle, should do it in April again. Or late March.
I am not a believer. I get you. I'm not a believer in the 4-year cycle. And I'll tell you, we'll get to, we got to wrap it up soon because we're going over, but I'm just going to give you a few things that I'm looking at that I believe. Jobs came out and they missed by a mile. Trueflation came out and it's under 1%.
Yeah, there's no inflation right now.
The job numbers look bad. Yet the market still believes for some reason that the Fed is not going to lower rates. In fact, some people think the Fed's going to raise rates. Well, guess what? I strenuously object to that position. I think we're going to get rate cuts past anything anybody is thinking right now. Certainly well past what the market is pricing in, which I will show you that right now. So if we go, the market's only pricing a 20% chance of a rate cut in March. I don't know if there's going to be a rate cut in March because Jerome Powell's driving the ship. I don't know if there's going to be a rate cut in April because Jerome Powell's driving the ship. In my opinion, he is irrational. He is being, listen, maybe he has some core belief in the market that is just fundamentally different than my belief in the market, but I would have done almost the exact opposite of what he's done at every meeting for the last 20 meetings in a row. That can't be a coincidence. So I think he's going to go down as one of the worst Fed chairs ever. In June, we're going to have a new chair Fed. Even with that, they're pricing in one rate cut. And then if I go to the end of the year, this is one rate cut, 25 basis points, 50 basis points, 75 basis points. So the market's pricing in 50 basis points by and large. I think we're going to get double that. So the market doesn't think that at all. Right? I'm in this area right here, which is 2% of the market. But I will be surprised. I'll actually be surprised if we do not end up doing this. And I think this is market manipulation. I think this is big money manipulating these futures to act as if they don't already know we're getting big rate cuts. By the way, as somebody asked earlier, yes, we're also going to turn the faucet on. We already have. Quantitative easing is real. It's already started. We were doing quantitative tightening until December of last year, just a few months ago. We are now quantitative easing, and it's only just begun. I think you're going to see a lot of money come back into the market through quantitative easing. I think you're going to see in the United States, you're going to see tax return refunds that set an all-time. We already know, they know the number. It's the biggest tax refund year in the history of the United States. And past that, I think there's going to be checks in the mail. So you're going to get that quantitative easing. That was that December of 2020, January of 2021. There was a giant bubble, and it's because people were money was raining down on them. It wasn't their money, and the people giving it to them didn't have any money to give to them. That's a whole different story. But once they got it, it's their money. And guess what? They spent it or invested it, which led to higher profits and growth in the stock market. So I think we're at that phase. That's all ahead of us in the rest of 2026. So I'm expecting a lot of volatility, particularly over the next couple of months, as Jerome Powell is still driving the ship. But then we get a new captain, and I think you're going to see a very different game. So
Tom, General Properties asked, what's everybody doing next week? So I would imagine you're just going to not sell anything, obviously, and just chill unless there's an opportunity.
It's unlikely I'm going to buy or sell anything next week. I've been saying for quite some time, I'm done unless something dramatic happens. Well, we had one of the 3 worst days in the history of Bitcoin yesterday. So something dramatic happened. I made my move. I'm likely to just sit now for a bit.
Well, on that case, I'm out, guys.
All right, George. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Peace out.
So for our poll was yesterday, the bottom for Bitcoin. We're at about 60-40. About 60% of you think yes. About 40% think no, the bottom's not in. I'm calling the bottom again. I'll reiterate that this is my opinion. I don't have the conviction that I had last April when it was much more clear and obvious. But I do think we saw all the signals for a bottom. Let me show you one more. Okay, so here's the Michael Burry. Yeah, 22. So there was a lot of FUD out there. And this was yesterday. So everybody yesterday was Bitcoin's limited supply won't help stop the sell-off. Again, that was yesterday. So most observers expect a slide to under 60,000, while firms like Stifel fear a more profound decline to $38,000, given the strengthening correlation with tech stocks, which have also taken a beating lately. So this is one of many articles that I found either $38,000 or $30,000 as the price target for Bitcoin. So those are people who believe this 4-year cycle it'll continue. It will duplicate the results of all previous cycles, and that's going to bring us down to like $38,000. So if you're in that camp, then I would plan accordingly. I am not in that camp. We're already so far off the reservation from anything that's ever happened in a previous cycle. I just don't know how anybody could think we're on the 4-year cycle right now. But you know, if you point to the right things, if you look at certain things, it can look like that. Here, crypto eligibility for 401k retirement funds is under fire after brutal market rout wipes out $2 trillion. This is February 6th, so most of that came back today. They failed to mention that. Also, retirement funds are for putting money into over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. This article solved itself in one day. So I'm just going to say, again, the person that wrote this knows better. They just do. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. But this article is ridiculous, in my opinion. Right? 401k. Yeah, if you're in a 401k, depending on what your age is, you're asking yourself, and if you're considering putting Bitcoin in your 401k, which is your retirement program, wherever you are, whatever country you're in, whatever retirement program you have that it's called, if you're considering putting money into your retirement program, depending on your age, you're asking yourself, what's Bitcoin going to be at 10 years from now? What's Bitcoin going to be at 20 years from now? What's Bitcoin going to be at 30 years from now? What's Bitcoin going to be at 40 years from now? Those are the questions, depending on your age, that you're asking yourself. So the fact that there was a big liquidation yesterday and we got almost 100% of it back today, that's not what a 401k, it doesn't matter to a 401k. If you talk to any person that does give financial advice, which is not me, the first thing they'll tell you, just don't look at your 401k. Put the money in and don't look at it. It's not for measuring from day to day. If you're looking at your 401k every day, then you should probably reallocate your time. Let's see, we got Us Man. Thanks for being a member. I'm holding a pretty large marathon position too. Average $9.20. Curious when you're thinking about starting to sell. I will tell you, I'm going to start dollar cost averaging out of marathon when it gets to $20. And if it takes a bigger run than I think, I'm going to miss it because I'll be done dollar cost averaging out of it if it ever gets to $30. I think that's one of the lesser companies on this list. Having said that, I think it's going to pull a triple. I think it's actually going to do better than that, but I want to be out. I don't want to miss the top with my exit strategy. So I will dollar cost average out. Right now, my plan is starting at $20. So we'll see what happens. Right? If it never gets to $20, then I'm going to have to make a reassessment. But that's my thought process. That's a stock. This is a stock that 2 years ago I would have told you I was going to hold until it was $100. But you gotta continue to analyze these companies and update your thesis based on what's going on. When Bitcoin mining was the main thing that these things did, this was the clear biggest company in the Bitcoin mining space. Their balance sheet was bigger than everybody else. But now it's about energy, power, and data centers. And instead of being number one, they're the last ones in on that. So while I think they're going to succeed and their stock is valued ridiculously, in my opinion, right now, I don't have the expectations I once had for that stock. But I'm certainly not selling it at a loss, not anytime soon. I plan on that being profitable. Thank you, Sean. And Sourmelon Gaming saying, now what's your plan for Cleanspark, Tom? I'll just say this. My numbers for Cleanspark are a lot higher than my numbers for Marathon. I don't think you can compare those two companies anymore. That's my opinion. I think Cleanspark is one of the winners. And they were late to the party. But when they showed up big. They've made big moves. They're right. First thing they did was make a move at the CEO position. And since that time, they have made substantial deal flow to get themselves properly positioned to capitalize on the data center part of this, energy part of this universe. So they are catching up quickly. I think they're going to be one of the winners. And and they haven't run yet. You know, I think IREN's going to be one of the big winners. It might be the best company on the list, but it's also already, you know, a $20 billion company. Well, not anymore, but it was trading as high as $20 billion. So, yeah, I still think it could double from that easily from where it was, but I think there's even more upside to CleanSpark that hasn't had that run yet, and it's due for that run. If we look at CleanSpark, you're talking about a $2.5 billion company. Would it surprise anybody, given the fact that IREN was at $20 billion a week ago? Would it surprise anybody if at some point CleanSpark becomes a $20 billion company? It would not surprise me. They had their earnings today. I think it was very much a nothing to see here. It was pretty much exactly what we expected. They had to take a big write down because they do hold 13,000 Bitcoin. But again, let me go see if I can find their... Oh, this is their January they're almost the only ones giving these anymore. They mined 573 Bitcoin in January. Everybody's given up on even putting those reports out anymore. CleanSpark delivers 181 million in Q1 revenue. Very similar to IREN, by the way, right? They're both 50 exahash type companies. Their top line was very similar. Here, total current assets, $1.4 billion. Total current liabilities, $139 million. That is a rock solid balance sheet. Now, the CapEx that they need is going to be significant over time to do what they want to do. It's going to be a lot more than this $1 billion that they have basically in cash and Bitcoin. But they're in a very healthy place. They've made a lot of acquisitions. I think their stock's going to run, and they will be able to borrow money versus dilute. And I'm okay with that. So, again, you got Bitcoin top line, 181 million. Cost of revenue, this excludes depreciation. So this is the cash cost of mining Bitcoin, 95. So, you know, that basically almost doubled. The revenue was almost double what the cost was, even with Bitcoin being wrecked for this whole quarter, right? Bitcoin was at bad numbers this whole quarter. And they still produced cash flow in a big way to contribute to building out their AI infrastructure or their data center infrastructure. So I think this was everything I wanted to see. I didn't see anything in here that was confusing or surprising. And again, this is all going to be about their shift. Stay efficient mining Bitcoin. Keep taking that cash and putting it into acquisition of land, power, data centers. And I think this is a company moving in the right direction. That is my opinion. TeraWulf, the only company that was green this week. TeraWulf expands digital and power infrastructure portfolio with strategic acquisition in Kentucky and Maryland. So this was early in the week. I think, was this Monday? Acquisitions added 1.5 gigawatts of load capacity. So now, and somebody had mentioned this in the comments, TeraWulf's platform more than doubles to 2.8 gigawatts across 5 sites. So again, one of the bigger players in this space. That's why I wanted in on TeraWulf. They decided long ago, this company hasn't cared about Bitcoin mining for a long time. And by the halving, this will be one of many companies. There's only going to be a few companies mining Bitcoin by the halving. Most of these companies will have shifted gears, in my opinion, to the data center formula. Most of them are well on their way to doing that. This company abandoned ship. I'm not saying they're at 0 exahash, but they abandoned ship on growing their Bitcoin business a long time ago. But 2.8 gigawatts of potential power for Data centers is great. Now, again, IREN has 4.3, 4.5. So, IREN's even ahead of this. But these are some of the best ones. IREN, TeraWulf, they have been focusing on this a lot longer than a lot of the other players. So a lot of these guys are building out their backlog, and the AI infrastructure has only just begun. So I think it's going to be fairly easy for them to fill as many data centers as they can possibly build. Because it's going to, all these put together, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of gigawatts in AI in the next 10 years. So I see any of these companies, if they can execute efficiently, I see them growing in a big way and being very profitable. There is a lot of CapEx. So, execution is going to be very important. And there's expertise in making a great data center versus a mediocre data center. And people are going to want their machines to run at peak capacity. So not everybody's the same. But I think there's a lot of winners ahead. CIFR, to answer your question, I bought some TeraWulf and I bought some CIFR. So if that tells you what my opinion is of those two, I was not in those two. I've been waiting for months and months and months for a buying opportunity. And I feel like yesterday was that buying opportunity, so I got in. Not financial advice, that's what I did. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I know there's more we could go through, but I think we got through a lot. This was to finish up, we'll go to the 1 day. This was a rough week, right? We were 3 red days in a row, including the biggest red candle we've ever had yesterday, hitting near the lowest on the daily RSI in the history of Bitcoin. So the most oversold we've ever been. And not surprisingly, we had a gigantic recovery today. So will that continue? Is this a one-off, one-day thing? We're still oversold, right? We're still only at 32.8 on the RSI. So we got an awful lot of room to run if we're going to run. We'll see what happens. We're oversold on the 1 day time frame. We're oversold dramatically on the 1 week time frame. So I think the technicals look really good here. We'll see what world events happen. Obviously, today was a phenomenal day. But this week, even with today's incredible 15 to 25% move to the upside on most of these, it was still a tough week this week. So good job, everybody, hanging in there. Thank you guys so much for showing up for the live stream. For the members, we will see you guys on Tuesday. And for everybody else, we're here every Friday after the market closes. So thanks so much and have a fantastic weekend.